This is Kelso Sturgeon. Welcome to another session of my College of Advanced Football Handicapping. Right now talking about Saturday, September the 8th, and all the games, and many of them dynamite games that we played today. There's 72 on the schedule, and believe it or not, 67 of them are on television somewhere, 28 of them on national television, more than that on ESPN3. So today we're going to get the opportunity to watch our money work for us all day long, and it's wall-to-wall football from beginning to end. You know, I'd like to start out with a funny, an interesting little story, you know, of why sometimes maybe you should keep your mouth shut when you're feeling your strength and your muscle and whatever that makes you want to spout off a little bit. You know, Sheldon Richardson is a redshirt defensive tackle at the University of Missouri, 6'4", 295, potentially one of the best in the country. He transferred, he's from St. Louis, transferred back to Missouri from College of the Sequoias in California. Southern Cal wanted him, Auburn wanted him, Florida wanted him. This was one of the most sought-after players in the country, right out of high school and then out of junior college. And you know, having played a lot of football, I know some of the defensive linemen take a lot of shots to the head that, you know, make them a little bit, shall we say, if not demented, at least a little dysfunctional as their careers develop. Now, I can guarantee you one thing. His coaching staff at Missouri wishes he had kept his mouth shut heading into this game against Georgia on Saturday. You know, here's a guy who said that he looked at the Georgia game, the film, Georgia and Buffalo last week, and was absolutely unimpressed with Georgia. He said Georgia played like a team of old men and there was nothing there, nothing to impress him, and he implied that Missouri will just rip and tear against the Bulldogs. Well, I'd like to say something to Mr. Richardson, who I respect as a football player, but I think he's a mental midget. He may be 6'4" and 295. His brain probably weighs about an ounce. I'd like to remind you, Mr. Richardson, that these old teams from the Southeastern Conference have won 6 consecutive national championships. So maybe old men football is the thing to do and be in the year 2012. This is just a funny story to me. I'd be the last guy in the world to deny Mr. Richardson his free speech, but I guarantee his coaches and his teammates wish he'd kept his mouth shut, because Georgia will arrive in Faroe Stadium in Columbia today with fire in their eyes. These old men, and they will come to get the money. My money says that Missouri and Texas A&M, who are going into the SEC this season, are going to find it tough sledding. Neither team has the blue chip talent nor the quality depth to complete over an entire season in a conference as tough as the SEC. Both are about to find that out. Maybe Missouri will find it out today. And once again, God bless you, Mr. Richardson. I hope you have a good game today. I have a strange feeling a lesson will be learned. You know, this is a giant weekend in football, especially on Saturday with those 72 games. You know, I'm going for all the money today with 3 very special plays. First of all, I'm releasing my 100-unit college grand slam. I usually wait till a little later in the season to do it, but in handicapping today's card, today's the day. The Grand Slam is made up of 4 25-unit plays, and all of these teams have an 80% chance to win and cover the number. I went 3-0-1 last year, 4-0 the year before, and tend to go 4-0 today. And you can get the Grand Slam for just $50 on this website, or toll free at 1-800-755-2255. All major credit cards accepted. Also releasing my first 50-unit college game of the week today, releasing a team that just absolutely has all the edges and grades that on top. And my best bet club players are going for the money, going for 3-0 with a 3-game card highlighted by the nationally televised Georgia at Missouri game, so you can see for yourself. This is a night game. We'll see if Mr. Richardson is right, or if these old-timers can really get the job done. Big, big day. You know, I just cautioned you about handicapping the card today. I found it almost impossible to deal with the 72 games, so I eliminated all the added games and most of the, the extra games and half of the added games, and stuck to teams that I know a lot about their potential, and I just can't handicap 72 games properly. I've looked at all of them, but in the end I'm looking at about 40 games, and that's it. I do believe I'll have a great day. You know, if you want to follow the wise guy money, there's been some moves that you should be aware of. First big move, North Carolina over Wake Forest. North Carolina opened at a -7, now -10.5, and might go up. Underdog Central Michigan getting heavy action against Michigan State. At one time, Michigan State was a -23.5. The money showed on Central Michigan. That number is down to 20.5. San Diego State over Army, another big money move. This game opened at San Diego State -4, now -6.5, and moving on out. Arizona taking a ton of money against Oklahoma State for reasons I don't understand, but that's all right. Some people know a lot more about this than I do. Wildcats open as a 13-point underdog, bet down to a 10.5-point underdog. Big money there. The biggest move on the board, by the way, came on a total. The over in the Southern California at Syracuse game. This number moved 7 points from the open. Opened 57.5, now 64.5. So the over, truthfully, is the biggest move on the board. The over in USC and Syracuse. The question you've always got to ask yourself when you look at these money move games is this basic question: has the value gone out of the money, or gone out of the number? And should the money I'm going to spend go the other direction? Very difficult thing to answer, but you've got to address that issue. The money at let's say -14 and -18 is a tremendous difference in a world ruled by points and half points. Also, I think you've got to keep your eye on teams today that are playing lesser opponents. They're giant favorites. They're coming back next week playing very, very tough opponents. I've just listed 4 of these games. You know, Michigan State, that 20.5-point favorite over Central Michigan, plays Notre Dame next week. Texas, a 38-point favorite over New Mexico, goes to Ole Miss. Arkansas State, a 23-point home favorite over Memphis, plays Nebraska next week. Arkansas, 30.5 over Louisiana Monroe, hosts Alabama next week. Alabama, a 39 favorite over Western Kentucky, and is at Arkansas next week. Sometimes when these teams are big favorites, they'll open up a lead, make sure everything is safe, and then they put everything under wraps to get ready for the next game. And that always opens the door for the backdoor cover. It doesn't always happen, but I think it's something you've got to consider when a team is a big favorite today and is playing a very, very difficult opponent the following week. If you're a bounce handicapper, there's 4 teams you might want to look at. Ohio University is in a major bounce downward factor. They beat Penn State last week. They're at home against New Mexico State. They're a 21.5-point favorite. The figures say that they will bounce downward today. I'm not saying to take the 21.5, merely saying that Ohio will not play as well today against New Mexico State as it did against Ohio State last week. Tulsa lost at Iowa State last week as a 2.5-point favorite. Is a candidate to bounce upward this week in its home game with Tulane. Tulsa, a 25-point favorite. Another team that should bounce downward off of last week's play, Nevada. They won as a big underdog at California. Come back today, they're a modest favorite, home favorite against South Florida, a strong candidate to bounce downward. Now we've got Michigan, that was embarrassed last week by Alabama, a strong candidate to bounce upward in its game against the Air Force. Michigan, a 21.5-point favorite. Now I found that the bounce factor sometimes stands alone. I certainly like to use it as I handicap I enter into the process other elements of the handicapping process. I use 47 different things when I analyze each team in each game, and I like to do all of them. I weight them my own way, and I'll tell you the bounce has a lot of weight in what I do. Now don't forget, we've got the 3 big plays today. They're available to you. We've got my 100-unit college grand slam, my 50-unit college game of the week. Both of those priced at $50. I also have a three-game package highlighted by the nationally televised Georgia-Missouri game. My best bet plays. You can have those for just just $15. Better yet, get on board for the entire Best Bets Club season for just $199. Get all the college and NFL plays plus about 10 or 12 100, 250 unit plays right through the end of the season. Just $199 charged to your major credit card. Be sure you're very careful today in handicapping. Do the basics. Make certain that there's no key injuries on the team you're using. Make sure you know what the weather is, and make sure that you know whether a team is in a bounce mode or playing a tough opponent next week, or has it all going its way today. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'll be right back here on Sunday morning with a very, very good and informative report on the first Sunday of the National Football League season.